Alright, hello everybody, it's Mr. Cheng from the English department. Welcome to this video. Today we are going to cover the answer for the proofreading exercise 1997. As usual, please take out a red pen and do the correction as I go over the answers in this video. Please also be ready to make any additional notes for your further referral. Okay. Alright, let's start the video by explaining the answers for A, B, and C. Okay, those answers are given to you, but it might also be useful to learn why these mistakes are made. First of all, the day started badly and my alarm clock did not off in the morning. So obviously, we need a verb here, but off is not a verb. Off is a preposition. So here we need to add the verb go. So go off is go off is a phrasal verb. Go off means to activate. So for example, a bomb can go off. An alarm can go off. You can also say, ring. My alarm clock did not ring in the morning. Okay? And my mother had to wake me up. My father insisted I did not have time for breakfast. Now here, you do not use the. Oops. Now here, we do not use the. The is referred to as the definite article. Okay? We use the to refer to a specific thing. Okay? We don't use the if we're just referring to general things. For example, when do you use the in this case? You can say, my brother ate the breakfast I cooked for mom. Oops. Okay, don't want bookmarks. You see here, my brother ate the breakfast I cooked for mom. So here, it's referring to the specific breakfast that I cooked for mom. Only that one I cooked for my mom only one. But here, I did not have time for breakfast. You're not referring to a specific breakfast. You're just referring to the general idea of, 早餐. So you don't need the definite article the. Number 3 said that I could have to eat my breakfast. Could means, could is the past form of can. Can means you can do it or not. Would means would is the past form of will. I will have to means you need to. Okay? But you could means you can choose to do it or not. So it's the slight difference in meaning that makes it impossible to be used here. Again, let me recap. Could, referring to ability. Or you can choose. Okay, I know it's a bit difficult to see. So maybe what I can do is do this. You could read a book. That means you have the ability to do it. But you can also choose not to do it. But here, because he was already late, so he need to, right? So he would have to. 78. I was really hungry, but I did not dare argue about him. The problem is with about. Now, what's the difference? Argue with somebody. Argue about something. For example, I argue with my mom about my academic results. Okay? But here, there's a mismatch. you don't argue about him. You argue with him. Or, I'm not going to type it out here not to confuse you, but you can also say, I did not dare argue about it. Okay? Because, his dad told him to eat the sandwich on the way to school. So he did not dare argue about it or about this. I said goodbye and I left the flat. Outside, I turned the button for the lift and waited. So obviously the problem is with turn because you don't say turn the button. You say you push the button or you press the button. 5 minutes later, I was still waiting. What was matter with the lift? In Chinese, it would be 做乜事啊？搞乜鬼啊？ So it would be what was the matter? What's the matter? What was the matter with something? Missing the definite article the. As I stepped into the street, it started to rain and I had forgotten to have my umbrella. 大遮. So to say bring, you can say bring an umbrella or take an umbrella, but you don't say have an umbrella. Okay? To fetch it. Fetch it means to get it. To get it, I would have got to walk up the stairs. Now the problem is I would have got to. So either you should say I would have to. Or you can say I would have had to. You don't say I would have got to. Okay? Because in American English, you can say I've got to go. I have got to do something. I have got to. Okay? But because of the modal verb would, you have to say I would have to. You don't say I would have got to. The verb tense is wrong. Alright. Let's move on. 83. I did not have enough of energy. Now, see, if you remember in the last lesson, I told you that last time we say full, you should say full of. Right? But enough, you should not use of. Okay? I did not have enough energy. Just enough energy, not enough of energy. So I walked to the minibus stop in the rain. All of the minibuses already full. Now this is a sentence fragment, incomplete sentence. Right? Usually, a complete sentence needs to have subject, verb, object. But here, all of the minibuses already full. This is the subject. Already full is the subject complement. Isn't it? It is an adjective. Full, right? So what you're missing here is a verb. What verb can you use? You can say are. All of the minibuses are already full. Ha! Actually something is wrong. You need to say were. Because of the verb tense. At last, one stopped for me and I got on. The driver stared me. Phrasal verb problem should be stare at me. When he saw how wet I was, I felt miserable, 好悲慘, and I was also therefore extremely hungry. In this case, you don't use therefore. Therefore means 所以. 你感到悲慘，所以你好肚餓. These two things do not have a relationship. So you just need to delete the therefore because they don't have a cause result relationship. Okay? proper use of therefore would be something like, oh, I got 0 mark in the exam, therefore I cried. You got low mark, you cried. This is normal. But you felt miserable. Then you feel hungry. Doesn't make sense. I took my sandwich out of my pocket. I had just started to eating it. Here, it is related to related to infinitive and gerund. So you the verb starts, as you probably remember from Form 2. You know, if you need to use 2 verbs in a row in English, the second verb needs to change the tense. Need to change the form. Either to infinitive, a bare infinitive, or gerund. That means the ing form, present participle. Now, start, you can use both infinitive and gerund. Both are okay. That means you can say start to eat or started eating. Both are fine. But you cannot say I had just started to eating. That is wrong. Okay? When all of a sudden the driver shouted at me and that eating. Okay. Here, the driver shouted at me. This is okay. And that. So, because and, you see the word and here. The driver shouted at me. Shouted is a verb. And. So, it's obvious that a verb is missing here. So, what verb can you use here? Eating is not allowed on the bus. You can say said that. You can say explain that. You can say warn that. Okay, many other verbs you can use. But you need to use a reporting verb. Okay. This is back to reporter speech. You should learn it in Form 2. Eating was not being allowed on the bus. This is a tense problem because you don't need to use past continuous in this case. Usually you use past continuous. You use past continuous to emphasize the longer action. For example, I was showering when you called me. So, was showering is the longer action. Called is the shorter action. But in this case, eating was not allowed. You are not emphasizing the length. It is just a fact. Although it was a fact in the past, we don't know now whether eating on the bus is allowed. We don't know. So we use the past tense. However, we don't need to use the ing because we are not emphasizing the length of the past action. Alright, let's move on to 90. I hid my sandwich and decided to do some revision instead. I put a book out of my bag. Again, it's a usage problem. You don't put a book out of your bag. You got a book. You took a book. You pulled a book out of your bag. You picked a book out of your bag, but you don't pull a book. And discovered that the bag was full of much water. Here, full of and much are two quantifying words. You don't need both. So I suggest that you delete the much. Because full of means 100%. Much just means a lot. The meaning is not the same. I felt like crying. 我想喊啊 After I feel like after feel like then you use ing. For example, she feels like dying. 佢想死。I feels like laughing. 我想笑啊。Okay. I felt like crying. So therefore, in this case, you also say crying. At that moment, the minibus stopped outside the school and I got off. It was quiet. Classes must started. I was late again. This is the most difficult question. I will explain why. In modal verbs, after modal verbs, you use bare infinitive, right? Alright? Right? After modal verbs, you use bare infinitive, like you should keep quiet or you must return the books before the deadline. However, that means that to use modal verb, you are using the present, the time is in the present, right? So, or even the future, right? You need to see me this today after school. You may go to toilet. We all talking about the present. What if we want to talk about the past? Past event. Then we need to use have PP to talk about past meaning. For example, class must have started. That means in Cantonese that would be 堂已經開始咗啦。Because it is already in the past. This whole story is narrated in the past. So you should use the past meaning. That means you should use the have PP, the structure. Okay? Let me give you another example since this is quite difficult, okay? You should have returned the book yesterday. 你琴日就應該還咗啲書啦。Okay? So here, it is referring to something that you should have done. 你過去應該已經要做咗嘅事。You should have returned. 你琴日就應該還咗啲書啦。It is referring to the past meaning. So you should use modal verb and then have PP or has PP. Oh, sorry, not has PP because bare infinitive. Okay. Or the bad guy may have killed the innocent girl. Alright? 嗰個壞人可能已經殺咗嗰個好天真無辜嘅小女孩。So again, we are referring to the past meaning. Maybe he killed her yesterday or a week ago, or it happened anyway in the past. So you use modal verb plus have plus PP. Alright? If you just say the bad guy may kill the innocent girl, that means he may kill her in the present time, now or in the future. But if you want to talk about past meaning, then you should use modal verb plus have plus PP. Okay? So hopefully you learned something in today's lesson, and hopefully you get to make use of some of the language items that you've learned in this proofreading exercise. For example, you now know that other than saying an alarm clock rings, you can say go off. We talk about several phrasal verbs. For example, argue about, argue with, go off, okay? Or stare at. We talk about some meaning problem. Okay, I push the button, I press the button, but you don't say I turn the button. Similarly, you got a book out of your bag. You don't say you put a book out of your bag. Okay. We also we also cover some language items such as infinitive and gerund, and also modal verbs. Okay, so hopefully you learn something from this video and then you can use them later in your composition or when you are doing your paper 1, paper 3, whatever. Okay.